1. So, I'm a 31-year-old man, and I had been working a job roughly a year and a half when I was told by the company owner that I was next in line for a promotion, and that when a manager position is available, they'd give me the role. Fast forward a month. A manager position opens up, and I am told I am one of the 2 candidates considered. The 2 candidates were myself, an employee with years of retail and managerial experience, and a year-plus experience at this job and worked every role the store had to offer. Steve, who started 2 months ago, was trained by me, had only 1 role in the store, and had 0 prior retail or managerial experience, but he lives a couple of blocks from one of the store's location. Steve got the job. The store owner said his logic was if a hurricane or a blackout happens, he can be there sooner and won't have any trouble coming in to open the store. I think there are a lot of flaws in his thinking. I didn't get too mad or salty. Steve is a really nice, kind dude, and I'm sure he'll do fine. But that coupled with learning our managers make about the same amount hourly as the entry-level Chipotle employees down the block were my I'm outta here moments. Who wants to stick around for bad pay and what you consider bad decision-making? So yesterday, about 2 weeks after my last 2 weeks, I stopped by the flagship location, not the one Steve managed, to talk to some old co-workers and shop. I found out the manager at this second location was leaving. At this location, my coworker Ron was all but guaranteed the manager position. He had been there longer than almost all of us. Most other managers regarded him as their favorite, and he basically kept the store running and the employees focused on their tasks, and was only at the job because one of the previous managers loved his work ethic and personality so much they convinced him to leave the job he was at to work at this store. So naturally, I excitedly ask Ron, "So did they finally give you the position?" Ron looks coldly and says, "No, they gave it to Steve." I was confused and was like, they just gave the manager position at the other store to Steve. Ron says, they gave him both positions. Apparently Ron had 1 too many call-outs, most of which were because he was the only one who could take care of his severely disabled brother for the day. I obviously felt awful for Ron. I don't hold any of it against Steve, who is again a wonderful guy, and I loved the people there, so it was definitely a hard choice to leave. But it was weirdly nice, in a decidedly fucked way, to have my decision to leave feel so instantly vindicated. 2. We all work in this business, whether it was because we were thrown into it or we just like that career choice. However, I think we can all admit we dealt with those customers who feel that they are above us because of our line of work. There are many, but this is one of my favorites. I work for a big department store. This happened a few years ago, but it still makes me smile. I came into my shift and found my manager. I did the normal rigmarole to get the rundown for the day, yet nothing was mundane because of the fiasco that happened earlier. And I'm talking about like calls to corporate, PR, the regional manager, the whole 9 yards. I was taken aback because nothing that crazy ever happened in the store that warranted that response, so what did? A customer came in. We will call her Karen. She needed to return something. But there was an issue with it, so my manager got called to help but was busy with another customer issue. She had another manager, Mary, to handle the situation. Mary comes down to help. She finds Karen and her friend waiting at the customer service desk. She asks what the issue is. Karen says, "I need to return this dress. It does not fit me." "Okay, do you have the order number or packing slip?" asked Mary. "No, I don't have those things. Do you have the card you used?" "I don't understand why you just can't return it for me." Mary explains that we need some sort of proof of purchase to return the item. If she had the email with the order number or the card, that would make it easier. Karen is annoyed because she bought it through us, so why can't we just return it for her? Mary says she can go through the system and see if she's able to retrieve the order, but it might take a few minutes to do this, if at all possible. If the item is really popular, there might be over 100 orders to go through. There is no way to filter the search by state or zip code. You just have to look through each one. Karen agrees, so Mary starts searching on the computer, but Karen is bored and strikes up a conversation with a friend. She is going on and on about why this is important to go to college or else you get stuck doing dead-end jobs like this. People who don't have degrees end up doing things the educated won't do. Karen doesn't realize the person who is helping her has a bachelor's degree in business. Finally, Mary has had enough of being told how she and everyone else are uneducated people. She stops looking for the order.
You know, maybe if you weren't such a fat cow, you would be able to fit into this dress.
Karen and friend are appalled. Mary flips them off, but not before the friend got a picture of her flipping them off to post on the area's Facebook page. Store manager comes to calm down the situation. Mary is in the office upset. Corporate is being called because of the post and picture on the Facebook page. Yes, corporate did give them something for their horrible experience and to take down the post. I don't remember what. Mary did get terminated for the interaction. She is doing great, though, at her other job. Why do I find her a hero? Why does this make me smile? 2 reasons. 1, Mary spoke up and said some comment to an unruly customer. We all have these moments in our minds, but don't dare to say them out loud, because we need this job. And 2, I saw the post before it was taken down. A majority of people who commented wanted to know how these ladies acted in order to get such a horrible response. They wanted sympathy, but got questioned on their behavior. That makes me smile to know 2 educated people couldn't follow simple procedures and ended up looking like asses instead. 3. So the print shop I, a 22-year-old woman at the time, used to work for, had a 1 fax-only machine a couple of years ago before it was replaced for a 2 printing and fax combo machine around 2019. And this print shop gets busy and was full of those customers that came in to get their papers faxed out. When I first started working at this print shop, I'd only known of the bigger printer fax combo my parents had at their office. So this teeny tiny fax-only machine was new to me, and it took a few tries, but I got the hang of it. And at the time, I surmised that most work offices have fax machines, regardless of what kind of fax machine they were. It would mean that the older adults that would come in to fax would know how to fax by themselves. I was wrong. When I was asked how to use the fax machine by an older adult, I would get so confused. Shouldn't they know how to use a fax machine? They're older than me, of course. This is a machine they should have been introduced to when they entered the workforce, i.e., they should know how to use a fax machine. Again, wrong. Do not expect everyone to know each and every groundbreaking technology just because they're older than you or younger than you. We all grew up with different sets of technologies, and we live different sets of lives. If the office worker that went straight into office work, they wouldn't automatically know how to use a warehouse forklift as someone who went to work at a warehouse as their first job. So I had to fix my attitude before helping them. There were always a handful of people that didn't want to be bothered with faxing their own papers all on their own. They'll say, "Oh, can you do it for me?" "Nuh-uh, no way, at least try to fax it yourself." I'd still go over and help, but still, come on. One of the most stressful times is when we would get a line full of people that needed to fax, mainly during tax season, and people would complain out of the gate and ask us if we have another fax machine. We did not at the time. They would even ask if they could purchase one and get it hooked up beside the other fax machine. We couldn't do that, but we were able to update our self-serve printers where they can print, copy, scan, email, and fax. Finally getting those cool printer and fax combos, it was great. Until this one time over the summer, super hot, even inside the printing shop. The fax, the internet, the registers were all going super slow. We informed everyone coming in about the situation, and we eventually got this line for the self-serve faxing. The 2 machines are our only machines that can fax. Our heavy-duty Xerox printers that we used behind the employee counter were unable to do faxes. It was an option that wasn't available for us to use. So a customer called me over for assistance. Their fax kept failing before getting halfway. They emphasized the importance of them getting documents to the company they were faxing to. All I could say is that they need to keep trying, maybe give the business a call to see if they received anything, and to double-check if the fax number was correct. Most of the time, it's one of those options, or that it was the influence of people faxing at the same time to the same company. Lunchtime and after work are the worst times to fax a 7 to 25-page document. Anyway, after being sacrificed to help in the self-serve area, there was a phone call that kept calling for the print shop. None of us could help with the phone call, we were busy with customers. Until I decided, since I'm the closest, I am just standing there with the customer to see if the fax goes through, I'll get it so whoever it is on the line can stop calling us. Mind you, there is still a line for faxing, and the customer I was helping did not want me to leave their side. The phone could be reached over the counter instead of me walking behind the counter and leaving said customer, so I repeated to her and the other customers around us the information from before, and that the only thing I could do myself was restart the machine and see if that helps, but it takes about 5 or 7 minutes to restart, so that they could try again. So the customer can risk the restart now and start over, or wait a little longer to have the documents sent down in a slow manner. Both options aren't appealing, but that's all I could provide. Another reminder, it is hot, even in the store, and having everyone who's on edge making it all tense with the added glares thrown my way as I answered the phone was absolutely insane. The funniest thing is that the customer on the phone asked about faxing, like, oh my god, I admit I let out a chuckle. Did it make the situation worse? Heavens, probably, but by that time, they can glare at me all they want. They're staying here with me throughout my shift, but when it's time for me to leave, I'm leaving while they still wait for the fax machine. During the call, I repeated loudly and clearly the same situation that everyone was currently going through. The fax machine is slow today, we have a line. It's best if you come to the store after lunch or come in tomorrow. Once I was done, went back to the same customer and she asked me, "Did it go through?" Honey, what? I might have stepped away to answer the phone, but I've been helping you for the last 15 or so minutes. Have you seriously not been paying attention to what we were standing around the fax machine for? These are your documents that you need to fax. They had a few more pages that needed to go through, and I let them know, as the screen is not big enough nor clear enough for them to see the page numbers. At that time, other fax customers asked me to check on theirs. One had went through, which was great. Got the next person set up, and went back to the other customer. A few more pages, and this legit happened as we both looked at the machine. And it said 4 out of 7 pages had been sent, 3 pages failed. Now granted, their faxes were doing that earlier as well. I wasn't surprised, just so disappointed, and the customer was rightfully irritated. They asked what else they can do. I gave them the same information as before. It has not changed. It won't ever change at the moment until we look more into why everything was so slow that day. My manager, who hadn't been involved, suggested restarting the machine, so they aggravatedly agreed to it. I repeated again that it takes about 5 to 7 minutes to restart, and the customer gave such an angry huff. I promise you, none of the information I told you before is different, so we restarted. They complain about the situation, which they have a right to. Eventually, the people on the other fax machines were done, and the customer asked to use the other fax machine. They sure can. It was a free fax machine at the moment. Let's give it a shot. It's not going to hurt. So it takes just as long as before, but eventually it all goes through, and they are out of the store lightning fast. For the remainder of my shift, I let everyone know that the first printer and fax machine is still going slow, but going faster than the second printer and fax machine. Choose at your own risk. Where was the moral of the story? Be patient, and stop glaring at employees who had repeated what was happening in real time. Those are the options provided. If you decided to stay and risk your lunchtime, it is on you. It had been a rough day all day for everyone, and I wish I could glare at you too without you guys snitching on me. I do not blame them for getting irritated. It was an amazing, stressful day, that when 3 p.m. hit, I left to pick up my dog from daycare and go home. Did not stay an extra minute. 4. Many years ago, I worked in a music store, and one evening an elderly man called, rudely demanding I check to see if we had a certain CD in stock. I politely asked him to hold the line while I checked, and when I returned to the phone to let him know we had his item in stock, he rudely insisted I let him pay for the CD with his credit card over the phone, and then set it aside so a relative of his could come collect it later. When I politely informed him that we're not allowed to process purchases over the phone, he shouted,
"Well, goddammit, I'm fucking elderly and physically disabled."
If the man had been the least bit kind to me, I'd have at least offered to approach the manager on duty to ask if I could make an exception. But no way was I going to even slightly go above and beyond for a grown man who just shouted obscenities at me. I politely but firmly repeated that I would not be able to fulfill his quote-unquote request. His response was to call me a nasty word for feminine genitals and slam the phone down. I still feel good about what I did because I should not have been expected to create a situation in which a manager would be able to reward a grown-up for engaging in such disgusting behavior. 5. Well, I might be getting fired from my job tomorrow. Just a note before I actually get into the story, my fiancé and I work at the same retail store. So last night, my fiancé and I ordered Chinese food. It was great, tasted amazing, and we enjoyed it a lot. Fast forward to this morning. We both wake up with the worst intestinal problems that we've ever felt. Obviously, we aren't feeling good enough to come in for our 10 to 6 shift. And so we decided calling out is going to be our best option. Over the course of the previous year, 2023, we had only ever called out 3 times for being sick. This year, it was our first time calling out, so we thought everything would be fine and there would be no problems. Manager picks up the phone. I explain the situation to her and apologize for calling out. She goes on to start rambling about how it's just her and the other manager, that she, for whatever reason, didn't schedule anyone else. And this store opens at 6, mind you, to cashier, and that we were really inconveniencing her by both calling out, because she had nobody to run registers. In response to this, I again apologize but reiterate that we both are really not feeling good enough to come in. At this point, it really seems like she's dragging the call on way too long, like I had called out, I was telling her we weren't coming in, and for whatever reason she wouldn't just accept that, but instead kept going on and on about how this is becoming a problem. Which I don't understand, because we've only ever called out 4 times in the year and a half we've worked there. To which I said again that I was sorry, but that there wasn't anything I could do about the way I felt. She then told me sorry isn't gonna cut it. I went off at that. I will admit that yes, I did snap at her over the phone, that I did lose my temper at that comment, because I have certain mental disorders that I will not name for privacy reasons. I didn't swear at her, though. I didn't say anything particularly rude to her or anything. All I basically did was snap, telling her there was nothing I could do because I had been stuck on the toilet all morning, and that her comments weren't really necessary. She started yelling at me after this, to which I told her that as a manager she needs to be more professional, and then hung up in the middle of her continuing to scream at me. Gonna be honest, I'm in shock. I have never been spoken to like that by a manager before. I don't know if maybe I'm overreacting or if I'm in the wrong for losing my cool in the first place, but her comments were unprofessional, and she does not need to be screaming at her own employees over the phone like that. I can't really expect too much from her, though. This is the same manager that writes a schedule to where we can have 2 people at rush hour, and then everyone comes in when the store is dead, so we have people standing around doing nothing. She also has a problem with having a temper, and taking her frustrations out on employees. Personally, I think she needs to be forced to step down. As a manager, she needs to know how to behave, needs to understand that she can't take her frustrations out on her employees, and that she needs to act in a professional manner, not like a child having a temper tantrum. But knowing that store, they'll probably write me up claiming it was my fault, whatever. By the way, if anyone has any information or advice on how I could possibly go about reporting that manager to corporate or something, I'd much appreciate it. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 196. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you'd like early access to the videos, I put them up on Tuesday at the latest, then go ahead and support me on my Patreon, which is linked in the description. You'll also find the link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store. If you enjoyed the video, then feel free to leave a tip. You can do so by clicking on the heart with a $sign. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it, and it's very helpful. Okay, I don't think we have any other business today. I think my next birthday shout-out's the 30th or something. So let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is anybody else craving Chinese food after the last story? No, just me? Alright, no. Real question is, a bit random, but what is your favourite kind of sausage? I think my favourite kind is a bratwurst. You don't have to say it with the accent, but bratwurst, my favourite kind. Although I do like just, kind of very yummy pork sausages, sometimes smoked sausage. Okay, I just like sausages, I guess. So I'll try anything. I've had some better than others. I've had ones that dare to call themselves sausages, but it's just mush in a sausage case. But I'm willing to try just about anything, so why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. And let's have the answer of the day before we go. And today's answer comes from last week's Fast Food and Retail, and it is from Little Dreamer REM 7021. And this was in relation to, do you enjoy soup year-round or just in colder weather? Year-round, baby. I make miso, udon, and ramen soup from scratch year-round, and the only thing that changes are the veggies used. More potatoes and frozen stuff in the winter, fresh onions and other seasonal choices in the summer and spring. Fall is mushroom time. Though I'll find ways to get my shiitake fix at other points too. Dried? Heck yeah. Thank you very much, Little Dreamer. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.